Mr. Chairman, it's great to have you back on Bloomberg TV and radio. We can talk about the politics, and I'm sure we will, surrounding all of this, but I just want to ask you, as a voice of experience on Capitol Hill, what your gut check is here with 4 days to go. We're going to have a closed for business sign in front of the Washington Monument next week?
Hey, Joe, it's great to be with you and Kate. It doesn't look good right now, but let me remind all your listeners, the reason that we're working in our districts today and not in Washington is because we passed a continuing resolution that's clean, that fully funds the federal government through November 21st with no hardcore agenda, one side or the other, with the support of the Appropriations Committee members, frankly, on the committee work. Both Susan Collins, the Appropriations Chair in the Senate, and Tom Cole from Oklahoma, the Appropriations Chair in the House, have done really good work. We've passed all 12 bills in our committees. Susan Collins has passed 3 of the appropriations bills across the Senate floor. We've passed 3 across the House floor. We just need a few more weeks to finish our work. And President Trump, House Republicans, Senate Republicans support just simply keeping the government open until Thanksgiving. Let's finish our work. And instead, we're having a fit by Minority Leader Jeffries and others about that's a bad thing. No, we have voted to open the government. It is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries that have told their members not to support it. That's the problem.
Well, of course, there's an ask by Democrats here to talk about extending ACA subsidies. I'm just wondering at this point, what's more likely in your view? If we're going to keep the government open, would it be a debate around extending these subsidies beyond the end of the year, or might it be senators from states like Virginia and Maryland with a big population of federal workers who just don't want to go there, and they come to the Republican side and vote yes?
Well, look, we had one Democrat in the Senate vote with the Senate Republicans, Fetterman of Pennsylvania. I think there's no winner in a government shutdown. And this is not the end of the negotiation. We're letting the committees continue to do their work, try to pass more bills across the House floor. The Democrats have full power of the ability to amend those bills and debate those bills in the Senate until November 21st, when we assume we'll set up a much more bipartisan, significant year-end conclusion to this. And we're just trying to pass as much across the floor as we can. That's why I believe that Mr. Schumer and my friend Hakeem Jeffries are premature in their wanting to shut the government down. I think it shows bad judgment on their part. And I hope members in their party that are in tougher districts or that are up for re-election will reconsider that. No one wants to be blamed for a government shutdown.
Congressman, we're expecting a ruling any day now from the Supreme Court on President Trump's effort to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. You've long been a supporter of an independent central bank. What do you think are the implications if the president prevails? He's allowed to remove a Fed governor. What does that mean for the Fed's ability to do its job free of political interference?
Right. Well, certainly the allegations against Governor Cook were ones worthy of consideration and study. And I've said all along that should be adjudicated before one could determine whether or not she should be removed from cause. Let's see what the Supreme Court says. I believe in the past, looking at precedent, they've been fairly defensive of the Fed's prerogatives in the 1913 statute and the way it's structured as being independent. We're conducting full Fed oversight, as is the Senate. And I think that's the appropriate way to go. So let's see what the Supreme Court ends up saying.
So Governor Cook, in her filing with the court, warned that her removal, allowing the president to remove her, could trigger chaos in financial markets. Are you worried about that, this potential reaction here?
Well, I don't think it would create chaos in financial markets. I mean, I think that's an overstatement, but I think that it's a serious charge to remove a Fed governor for cause, and the Supreme Court may have a view on if that has to do with actions prior to someone becoming a governor or while they're a governor as a part of their job duties or not. But we're one in the confirmation process to find out that she had not handled her mortgage applications in a steadfast and appropriate way. That might have impacted whether or not she could have been confirmed for the job, which is an important bank regulatory position.
Mr. Chairman, I've got to ask you about the other big story that's got Washington reeling this week, and that's the sale of TikTok, or I guess the pending sale of TikTok. The president says there's a framework for a deal that the Chinese have signed off on that would essentially, based on our reporting at Bloomberg, still keep ByteDance's hands all over this company here. The valuation was a surprise. I'm wondering what you make of this arrangement and whether it betrays the spirit of the bill that you passed, divest or ban. Does that bill need to be repealed?
Well, Joe, I did vote for that bill. I don't believe TikTok is an entity that should be on anyone's Wi-Fi or on anyone's phone that's concerned about their privacy, their data, and the ability of the Chinese state to use all that TikTok data to at some point use it in a malevolent way against the United States. I think people underestimate that. I'm not one of them. I think that's absolutely a strategic cyber risk to the U.S. So I voted for the bill. President Trump has tried to grapple with May 1, isolate that data, isolate the data flows to the United States under U.S. leadership, and then therefore protect that. I think that remains to be seen. I've not studied this deal, but I want to see the details before I pass judgment on it. But you're right to say that I believe TikTok is not something that should be continued to be allowed in the U.S. with the Chinese government controlling it. And I think if one studies it, they would come to that conclusion, no matter how appealing it is or how much fun it is for people who use it.
Congressman, you are a community banker at heart. So as we're facing the prospect of a shutdown in 4 days, does this have any sort of effect on the banking system? I mean, we know, for example, that we might not get a jobs report next Friday if the BLS is shut down, important economic data, things like that. But especially for the smaller banks, rural banks like the ones in your district, what are the implications?
Well, I think the implications of a government shutdown are all bad, which is why I don't think we should have one. I don't understand why Hakeem Jeffries would be picking some hypothetical issue of having health care for illegals in the country versus paying our troops or putting out a jobs report at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I mean, I think you just gave it good examples of why we should keep the government opening and functioning. For people who are fiscal conservatives who think that somehow, oh my gosh, this is a great way to cut spending, actually the opposite is true typically, where you end up spending a lot more money after the fact to restart programs that are reduced during the government shutdown, particularly at the Pentagon, the national parks, the Corps of Engineers. None of this is helpful to our economy. And therefore, if our economy is weaker, obviously it has impact on our bankers. I think we should stay in session. We should pass the National Defense Authorization Bill conference report. We should do something to help our farmers here in Arkansas that are suffering. And none of that is helped by a government shutdown. And so that's why I think Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Schumer should simply agree to keeping the government open in a clean continuing resolution till November 21st. And let's keep talking about their priorities. We'll talk about our priorities.